like a little bit of a demonstration of why language matters. I'm going to pull up a website from the British Museum. And I came across this through an Etruscologist, an article. And this mirror is, they don't date it at the museum. They say, the Etruscologist said it's somewhere, they think it's somewhere from the 4th century BC to the 5th century BC. But when you look at the languages that's being used, right? So they'll say this is Etruscan, and I would agree for the most part. I can read it because I can read Etruscan. However, there's little subtleties in the letters that are different. So this would say MENRVA. So that is Minerva. And the Latins, they say the Latins descend from Greeks, but the Latins use all the Phoenician and Etruscan mythology. And the Etruscan language is one for one the Pelagian. And the Pelagian is one for one the Phoenician. And the farrago that's happening, which is the mishmash, is a lot of status quo people think that the Pelagians are Greeks. And I'm saying no, because if you look at historians like Dionysius of Halicarnassus, he wrote that Marsilius of Lesbos said he didn't call the Pelagians, he called them the Turanians. And the Turanian Sea is on the west coast of Italy, where all these languages that are one for one with Phoenician exist that don't have any affinity to anything in the East. Not only that, Dionysius Halicarnassus said the rest of the world called the Turanians Pelagians and the Pelagians Turanians, the same people. And so that's where one of the things is getting mixed up. But even if you were to look at that, that is going to be, let me show you one more time, just show you this letter right here. You see this? This is an Umbrian. This is actually an Umbrian alphabet, which according to Pliny the Elder, I'll read you a quote from him, but this is allegedly the oldest civilization in Italy. And I don't know that the status quo nowadays thinks that, but that's what he wrote. And he existed, I think, in the end of the 1st century. I think he died at Mount Vesuvius in Pompeii. But the point of this is Umbrian. So if Umbrian's as old as they think it is, then this plate mirror, if it's authentic, it could be a forgery. Nothing's out of the bound, right? So we're going to get to the truth whether we're looking at a forgery or not. And that's why I like what we're doing. This must be older because it's an Umbrian, or the Etruscan people that wrote this were using an Umbrian alphabet for a reason, or this might have been found in a tomb that was from the 4th or 5th century, but that's not to say that this couldn't have been an ancient artifact that they had even back then, and they wanted to be buried with it. I don't know, but the reason I'm pointing this out is because I've never seen another person alive do this. The Etruscologist that brought it to my attention, that I learned it from, they don't know about it. If you go to the British Museum on the website, they don't say anything about this being the digamma or the V, right? Identifying it specifically as Umbrian. And now the quote that I wanted to read you, just so you see where I'm coming from with this.
Can I ask a real quick question?
Yeah.
Just for context here, are we already talking Roman Empire or seeds of, or like what's the timing here?
So this is what a lot of people, especially in like the conspiracy world, are saying, like something's up with the chronology of Rome. It's not adding up. Not only that, some of the most important cities in Etruria, which are right near Rome, are not mentioned by any Roman author or any Greek author, except for you'll find it in maybe like a geographical account or something like that. But a place that would have been responsible for so much pottery, so much stone masonry and statue working, so much bronze work, and nobody says anything about it. It looks like something happened in Italy around the turn of the Common Era, and whatever Italy's history was totally gutted and hidden, and what we have now is a construct. And so just to give you insight on the Umbrian people, which this is why I'm tying it into this, it's really interesting, is because that spiritual sun, that spiritual, that well, Pliny the Elder in his Natural History wrote the Umbrian people are thought the oldest in Italy. they are believed to have been called Umbri. Here, the people of the thunderstorm, after Umbros, thunderstorm, by the Greeks, because they survived the deluge, literally the inundation of the lands by thunderstorms, Imbribus. So the Etruscans and he wrote, the Etruscans vanquished 300 Umbrian cities, which means, long story short, but showing you why knowing alphabets is critical, this is older than the oldest Indian inscription. And when you understand how, and people actually look into it, and the book you want to go through, you don't need to be initiated or like well-versed in this stuff to read book 5 of the Spirit World. It's called The Holy Sailors. Beth can attest that there is like dozens of words. I didn't do all of them because it's like not interesting. It's too technical. It's not really like exciting. That's why I don't really want to talk like in detail about it. But the affinity, the amount of letters that Rome, that the Celts, and that Sanskrit share, it's mathematically impossible that's not coming from either an older civilization or the priests sharing these technologies of the times with each other, right? So it might not be spreading through people like commoners, because in order to have these systems, and because they're so similar, you had to be initiated. And that's why the Pelagi were called the Di Pelagi, the holy sailors. And Pelagi, for those who don't know, it literally translates as wanderers by sea, but it's also ascribed to the stork because those are seabirds. And the historians don't know if the Pelagi were called storks or if the storks are named after the sailors, but that's where it comes from. So that's why I call it the holy sailors.